Hi everyone, DLT would like to thank you for joining us as we celebrate the one-year anniversary of our Tableau Department of Commerce Agency Catalog. During this webinar, Janae Dandridge, Federal Account Exec at Tableau, as well as Jerrod Travlee, Senior Product Consultant at Tableau, will provide an overview of the products and services available to your agency through the DOC Tableau catalog, as well as a demo. Janae, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Blair. Hi, everyone. As Blair mentioned, I am the Tableau Account Manager supporting the U.S. Department of Commerce. We're really excited to share a bit more with you about Tableau and all of the products and services available under the Tableau BPA at Commerce. So I'm going to provide just a quick overview of Tableau, what we're all about, some of the products and use cases that we've seen throughout the government, and then Jerrod will take it away with a demo. If you can get the data into the hands of the people who know the business, that's when the magic really begins to happen. That's when their creativity and curiosity gets awakened and they start using facts to support their intuition. They see opportunities in your agency that have never been seen before and they become more engaged. That's what drives your organization forward, and that's been the fuel behind the inception of Tableau and continues to drive us forward today. We are 100% focused on helping people see and understand that data, and this includes people within the Department of Commerce. Our story is all about technical innovation and inspiring data visualization analytics through our technology. We really started out by pioneering a new field of visual analytics with a groundbreaking innovation called VizQL. VizQL creates a visual representation of your data right away. That'll give you visual feedback as you analyze, and that innovation makes powerful data analysis possible for non-technical users. People can really see what the data is trying to say, and they have the freedom to explore and ask questions using visual cues from our products to further that exploration and gain insight. VizQL defined the power of the visual and created this new category called visual analytics versus traditional business intelligence. We knew that the impact of VizQL could be even greater by compounding it at scale, so we began to design a platform that gives individuals the same power but multiplied. Our commitment to innovation is unmatched. We commit 25% of our revenue per year to research and development since 2010. We constantly release new features and capabilities with 4 releases per year and are always looking for ways to enhance the relationship with data. We take feedback from our customers and our user community and fuel that into our product roadmap. And we're always transforming how people and organizations work with their data. Now, a bit more about the Tableau platform itself. We deliver an enterprise analytics platform that will empower and elevate your people. This is through 4 pillars that we do better than anyone else in the market. So the first being powerful analytics that drive better outcomes, fast adoption at scale across all skill sets, the flexibility to leverage your existing technology investments, along with being a mission-critical analytics platform. First, powerful analytics that drives business value. We know that not all data is straightforward and not all questions are easy. Data holds significant value if you're able to get everyone looking at it from every angle and fully explore it to uncover the opportunities within it. Unlike many analytics platforms, Tableau allows for deep, full exploration of the data. There are no limits to answers and insights your people can find in your data, and Tableau provides that exploration. Fast adoption at scale across skill sets. To really integrate data throughout your organization, you need to make sure that your people want to use it. The software has to be easy, intuitive, and helpful, and the people have to find value from it instantly. This is really core to how we design our platform. We design for people of all skill levels and expertise. We're making it easy and intuitive to dive in and explore data to make it easy to stay on top of your ever-changing data requirements. Tableau makes it possible to integrate data into everyone's decision-making, regardless of their technical and analytical capabilities. And we also provide a number of free resources online and also paid training options to help people adopt the software quickly. We also give you the opportunity to leverage your existing technology investments. We are designed to fit, not dictate. Other technology providers or data analytics platforms tend to require you to purchase the rest of their stack in order to be able to use their product. We were designed so that you can use your Oracle database or any other platform you might have throughout your organization like Microsoft Azure or AWS. We provide an infinite number of options versus requiring you to stick with just one. This is really important for you all as we understand that your requirements can continue to change over the years, and we don't want you to be stuck. And we want to make sure that we're able to be flexible and adapt to your changing environment. Lastly, we understand that data is a mission-critical asset to your organization, and that's why we built the Tableau platform to really ensure that you have everything you need to empower everyone with data without putting your data or your organization at risk. This includes providing the right security, compliance, integration, and governance capabilities you need to scale analytics without risk. It also means applying these controls in a way that protects your data and your business, but does not limit the flexibility and agility your people need to do their jobs. Now, a little bit more about industry leadership. We have been recognized as a leader in the visual analytics space for 8 years by Gartner. We've heard things such as Tableau is the gold standard and the best reporting tool presented in the market. We continue to invest significantly in our platform so that we can continue to be the market leader and ensure that our users have a wonderful experience wherever they are. We also have a very active and vibrant user community. So we have 500 user groups all across the world, along with 150,000 people who are active in our online community. So if you may have heard of it, you may have not, but we have this big conference every year called Tableau Conference, and last year we had 15,000 people come out to Las Vegas and geek out over Tableau, our product roadmap, and what other companies and organizations are doing with the product. You'll also find that you can post a question on our community forum, and within hours, someone will respond with a solution that they've already come up with, and they'll work together to come up to a solution for you. So it's a very supportive community, and it definitely helps the time to value for your agency. Here's an example of some of our customers in the government, along federal, state, and local entities. You'll see several of your peers in the Department of Commerce listed here, along with agencies such as Treasury, the Department of Defense, and looking at the state and local level, several colleges and universities, along with major state governments such as Texas, the state of New York Department of Health, are all using Tableau to drive their organization's business outcomes. Now let's talk a bit more about some of the use cases that Tableau supports across the federal government and state and local agencies. So one we see a lot of is human capital and workforce analytics. We know this category is very broad, but you can see here, this is an example from GSA looking at the diversity summary of their agency. This is really important for succession analysis. As you can see here, the age distribution could indicate that there is some need to do some hiring as their workforce was planning to retire. Now, this is a little bit outdated, but this is a very relevant use case and issue across the federal government. We've also helped with recruiting analysis, compensation planning, the Fed survey, along with a number of other areas of human capital analytics. Another area of focus for us is the financial space. So there are several financial requirements within the federal government, from budget and planning to annual reporting, grants management, fraud, waste, abuse, you name it. This dashboard looks at employee expenses, looking at what types of expenses, are they airfare or dinner, and looking at if there's anybody who may be a little bit of an outlier that you might have to pay a bit more attention to make sure they're not abusing the system and they're maintaining compliance with some of your rules. The next one is information technology. So we know that IT teams have a number of metrics they're tracking, from case support tickets to IT spending, license utilization. Are we at risk of a cyber threat? These are very important use cases that we've been helping with, particularly across the federal space. So this dashboard is case support ticket tracking to see when we have spikes in cases. Monday or Tuesday, do we have the staffing to support it? How quickly are we getting them resolved, et cetera. So this is a really common use case we see across the federal government that we think can be applied at the Department of Commerce. The next one is for program management and performance. So this is a pretty common one as well. This area is pretty broad to say that every agency has a KPI or a number of KPIs that they have to measure against. And we see that many folks use Tableau to track and communicate their performance against these goals, as well as communicate to stakeholders and the public their performance, showing some level of transparency and accountability for achieving agency outcomes. Lastly, this is less of a use case, and it kind of goes along with the previous slide, but we're talking about open and external analytics. So how can you increase citizen engagement and collaboration through data and foster transparency? So a few examples of this are actually from the Department of Commerce, but one specifically is the Census Bureau. How can they communicate the work they're doing as far as collecting the count and get people to respond to the census survey? And how can they communicate the importance of that through data? That's just one example of how federal agencies are using external platforms based in Tableau to increase and foster citizen engagement through data. So that wraps it up for my overview. I'll kick it over to Jerrod to give a demo of all of the products available under the Department of Commerce Agency Catalog.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Janae. So like Janae said, my name is Jerrod Travlee. I'm a senior product consultant in the Tableau DC office. What that means is I help people to technically validate the software as well as do some customer enablement. So super happy to be here with you guys today. Hopefully we can get a lot of your questions answered. So I always like to start off the demo by initially showing the Tableau platform, just in case you are new to it. So as I scroll down here, you'll see our products. And we do like to keep it pretty simple here. So right here on the left, you'll see Tableau Desktop. This is really the flagship part of the platform and the reason why we exist. You have your power users that connect to their data, build out strong visualizations to then be shared out to the broader organization. Right beside here, you'll see Tableau Prep. So we love to partner with our customers and they let us know, hey, we really like to visualize our data. However, that's really only 20% of the time. 80% of our time is actually cleaning and prepping the data to get it Tableau ready. So, like I said, we love to partner with our customers. Thus, Tableau Prep was born. So you can think of this as a step before desktop to get that data preparation ready for Tableau. Right below here, you'll see Tableau Online and Tableau Server. These are two flavors of the same thing. This is where you would have the user log into the secure environment to consume the information that has been published up. So depending on your environment, you will be logging into one of. For the purposes of today, we'll be spending most of our time in Tableau Desktop, kind of building out a visualization, and then we'll spend some time in Tableau Server. That being said, you can see that I have up Tableau Desktop, and this is that familiar splash screen that you'll be in. Here in the center, you'll see all my recent projects that I've been working with. On the right-hand side, again, you'll see that community in which that Janae was referencing before. This is a great plug for the community. We are probably one of the most extensively documented visual analytics platforms out there. So much so that if you have a question, feel free to type it into Google, tackle on Tableau at the end of it, and oftentimes you'll get a very quick answer. So much so that a customer referred to Google as Tableau University to me the other day. So feel free to enroll if you so choose. On the left-hand side, however, is the most important part, and this is our Connect to panel. You can see that we have the option of either connecting to a flat file, so you can see that handy-dandy Microsoft Excel, text files, JSONs, PDFs, spatial files, as well as the option of going directly to the server. So this is super exciting for me because every single year that we make a release, this list just keeps getting longer and longer. We call these our native connectors, and that's just fancy talk for the fact that we've worked extensively with the vendors to ensure that the most optimal SQL code is passed. And that's really one of the most valuable things about Tableau. We'll actually handle the SQL coding for you. So if you don't have some of that technical prowess, you're still able to work within the platform. For today's purposes, I'm going to connect to what we call. When I connect to Sample Superstore, you'll see at the top here that this is a Microsoft Excel file. Right below there, you'll see all the tables that are associated with this file, or sheets. You can also see that I'm working specifically with the orders table currently. I'll also draw your attention over to how I'm connecting. So right now you can see I have the option of either connecting live or extract. And this is very unique to Tableau. We'll give you the option for both. Think of live as keeping the window open to the database, or in this case, the Excel file in which that we're connected to. So if any changes are made in that particular Excel file, it'll be reflected back in Tableau. However, we also see customers oftentimes connect via extract. Think of extracts as a snapshot in time. So if I were to take an extract right now, it's currently 11:15 in the DC area. This would essentially have all the data reflective as of 11:15. And then I could put this data source or this dashboard on a file to essentially update to my cadence. Today, we're going to stay connected live. Right below here, you'll also see a row level preview of the data. And so you can see we have different column headers like order ID, order date, ship mode, and customer name. However, at this point, Tableau is basically saying, hey, Jerrod, go to the first sheet and show people how to create. So I'll go to sheet 1. Once I go to sheet 1, you can see that my data has been split into dimensions as well as measures. Think of your dimensions of how you're going to split up the data. So you'll see things like customer name, order ID was something that we saw before, state, city. These are all descriptive items. However, right below there, you'll see our measures. And so you'll think of your measures as the things that you're going to be aggregating, or the amounts of the data. So discount, profit, profit ratio, quantity. These tend to be very numeric items. So I can begin asking questions of my data. So maybe I really want to see my sales. So I'll simply drag and drop my sales to rows. And maybe it's important for us to look at it from a category perspective. So I can do that as well. Now, I don't like the way that this is looking, so maybe I just swap this access very quickly. Notice that at this point, I've done no coding. I simply have just dragged and dropped particular fields in order to create a view in the particular sheet. So this isn't really telling me much. It's simply saying, hey, there are sales per category. So I can add some context here. Maybe I look at this from the subcategory perspective. And let's also look at profit. This particular data set that we're looking at today is a big box store. You can think of it as a Home Depot or an Office Max, where every single row is a transaction. And so you can imagine that profits are actually something that's very important to us. So how about I also drag profit to color? And we'll quickly sort. Now, you'll see here that when I wanted to change something in my particular view, I simply dragged something onto what we call the marks card. For this particular instance that we were working with color. Now, my visualization has a profit colored on that particular graph. I can also change the size of these particular bars by simply dragging this up and down. I could also add labels if I wanted to. We'll talk about detail a little bit later, as well as customize the tooltip. Now, the tooltip itself is basically this ghost box that appears every single time you hover over a particular mark. And so I think this is great. We're now looking at this particular axis and we're seeing that profit is down. Anything that is orange is indicated as low profits. And we can see here that, hey, there probably is some issues with particular tables. And so we can rename the sheet Now, the next thing that I'm probably thinking about is if this is happening in a particular area or if it's happening all over my the US. So I can go ahead and create a new sheet. As I'm thinking about something that's geographic, a map might be the best way to visualize this. So what I'll do is I'll select on state, and I'll also select on profit. To do that, you'll notice that before when I made that selection on profit, it actually removed my state selection. Just make sure that you're selecting control to select multiple things at one time. I'll then come up here to show me. Show me is a really great place for new users. Based off of your selections and your dimensions and measures, it'll give you the best visualization type. Now, I don't always have to go with what Show Me is suggesting. Maybe I look at a pie chart and I can kind of go here and you can see how quickly I'm getting different visualizations. But in this particular scenario, I actually do agree with Show Me, so I'll go ahead and create that map. You can now see that I have a map representing the sum of profit for every single state within my particular data set. Now, for this particular example, I'm actually really interested what this looks like from a postal code standpoint. So in order to see things by the postal code, I'll actually need to change our level of detail. Right below here, you'll see that we actually have 49 marks on this particular sheet. Now, if I take this postal code and drop this onto the detail card, you'll now see that our marks have increased to 630 simply because we have changed the level of detail. We're now not looking at things from the state perspective, but looking at things from the postal code perspective. So that's how we change that particular visualization. We can go ahead and be consistent here and simply drop our profit onto color. This is a little bit hard for us to see right now, so maybe I do some edits and add a border and maybe a little halo effect. And now everything I have in the view is colored by the sum of profit, sized by the sum of profit, as well as being visualized by the postal codes in our particular. We can see here that there's profit issues kind of all over. I'm seeing that orangish color tone amongst a lot of these postal codes. So for this particular sheet, I'll say not. The next thing I'm really interested in is what our profits are actually doing over time. So I'll simply drag out our order date to columns, and then I'll drag out profit to rows. Notice that when I dragged out a particular date field, it defaults to year. Let's right click on this really quickly. We'll actually switch this to the month. However, let's right click one more time. If you were just paying attention there, you'll see that we have year, quarter, and month at the top, but we also have year, quarter, and month at the bottom. And that's because we provide two different ways to actually visualize date information. The top are what we call discrete dates. The bottom, however, are continuous dates. Now, there are 4 different years within this particular data set. However, we are using the discrete month right now to visualize in this particular view. What that means is that all of our Januaries are going to be aggregated in one point. and so will our Februaries, our Marches, our Aprils, and so on and so forth. However, I could right-click this and look at this from the continuous month. And now you can see I have a continuous range from January of 2016 all the way until December of 2019. So every single month in between those dates are now being visualized in this particular line graph. I actually prefer this so I can see the spikes within my particular data set. However, I think it might be super helpful to not only look at this from the profit perspective, but to look at this from a profit ratio perspective. Now, because this is a predefined data set, we actually have included this calculation within. However, you're not limited to what Tableau can read through your data file. So if profit ratio wasn't here, we could actually create a calculation and create additional metadata to use within Tableau. Let's actually demonstrate what that looks like. I have this drop-down arrow next to my dimensions. I'll go ahead and select that, and we can say create a calculated field. What will happen is this box is then brought up. I'll name this profit ratio. We'll name that profit ratio too. We already have one in our measures. Now, at particular Superstore, profit ratio is defined by the sum of profit divided by the sum of sales. The reason why I'm saying the sum is that you're definitely going to want to wrap your sales and your profit with sum functions so that you can aggregate to different levels within your dimensions. So let's start typing. Type in the sum here. Notice that the function is now asking me for the next expression. I'll type in profit. I'll divide this by the sum, and we can even drag the fields from our measures as well into the calculation box. Notice that we're getting a calculation is valid message. This means that everything is good for us to continue. However, what if we miss this parentheses? Notice that now we're getting a flash error. This is basically saying, hey, there's an error within this particular calculation because there's an expected closing parentheses or a. Now, if you don't know all the functions within Tableau, don't fret. We have this nice box to the right here that will help you out. So say, for instance, I really wanted to create a date calculation. Go to date, click on the expression that I think is important, and I'll have a nice synopsis of what the function does, as well as an example on how to write one. Super simple. I'll go ahead and click OK. And now you'll see that my profit ratio calculation that I made before has been brought up in my measures. I'll go ahead and replace this with the profit. Now, as I hover over this, you'll see that we're looking at the profit ratio for every month within the data set. Let's turn on our labels. And so because profit ratio is a percentage, you can see that right now it's only being calculated by a decimal. We can simply change this to the percentage by right-clicking on the profit ratio, changing its default properties, and simply defining the fact that we want. And let's actually take away all that. Now you can see that we have those percentage points within our view. I'm going to go ahead and change this color to gray simply because we have profit on color on another sheet, and I want to make sure that we're being super consistent with the colors. I'll rename this time series. The last thing I'll do is create a details tab. I know that some of my users love to see things in cross-tab view, and we can provide that to them with the visualizations that we've produced thus far. Tableau makes this super simple by simply right-clicking on the sheet that you want to duplicate, and I can say duplicate as a crosstab. Now you can see that every single month that we had in that view, along with the respective profit ratios. However, I think it might be a little bit more important to look at this from a customer name standpoint. So I'll replace that though. Let's also look at the profit ratio alongside our sales as well as our. I'll simply drop those on, and we can reorder these as well. And now we have a nice crosstab view. I'll name this details. So as we've gone through, we've really created a lot of different sheets that really show a nice kind of synopsis of this particular store. The next thing that we need to do is to combine it in a dashboard. So I'll create that dashboard. Maybe I'll pull out my map. I can pull out my time series, as well as my details. And we can do a little bit of changing to make sure that this looks good. Maybe I get rid of some of my keys, make use of all my space. So that we have a nice view here. I could even add a title. We can rename this as well. So now you can see that we have these sheets. However, when we make a selection, notice how the other sheets are not particularly responding. And that's simply because we have not made use of our filters. So I'll draw your attention to this funnel icon here on the right. If I click on that, now when I make a selection, you can see that my other two visualizations are updating based off of that selection. Now I have the option of either selecting things individually or grab things by clicking and holding as well. You can see how this could be super useful if you have a particular state or location or region that you're responsible for. And that's about it. That's pretty much the build process. But you're probably asking yourself, how do I get this out to other people at this point? And that's a very fair question. Up here, we have what we call the server button. I can select on the server, ensure that I'm signed in to my particular server instance, and I can publish this workbook. So let's do that. And actually, I'm going to need to sign in to a different site here. Give me 1 second. So this is what this would look like. You would simply just plug in your credentials. I have a lot of sites that I'm on. So I want to make sure that I'm on the correct one. And then plug in that information. So it looks like we're good now. I'll simply publish this workbook. Now, as you're publishing the workbook, you have the choice of putting it into different projects. And so depending on how your environment is actually structured, you can see that mine is structured by different function at Superstore. So we have finance, marketing, sales. I'll go ahead and put this in my sandbox folder because I know it's not production ready. I can give this a good name. I'll say 31820 demo. You can also give it a description, add tags so that it's easily searchable in the environment. You can also choose what you're actually going to put up. So for this particular example, I will publish all of the sheets that we've created, but you have the option of picking and choosing what you actually want to put up on your end. So I'll go ahead and publish that. You can see that Tableau is kind of running in the background and creating this publish view. What will happen is that it will create an additional tab within your browser within your environment. You can see that we get this publishing is complete message and that we're ready to go. So now this information is on my server for other people to access. Let's go ahead and click on that dashboard that we just made. So again, same type of functionality that we saw within the desktop application. I can pick and choose different things to choose on and get that filter actually working. However, let's actually show you what it feels like to be a user within the server. So we have a slew of options up at the top here that we'll actually run through. The first that I think is very interesting is the fact that you can save custom views. So say, for example, I was really responsible for the Colorado zip code or the Colorado state. Select on this and make this my default view. Now, every single time that I come into this particular dashboard, it'll be filtered down to Colorado simply for me. What's nice about this is that for some more complex dashboards that have quite a bit of filtering, this just saves some time so that you're getting to the insights that are very important to you right away. What's also great about this is that you can make this view visible to others. So in the event that there was a Colorado team, I could make this visible to them so that they could subscribe and essentially get that same type of way that every time they touch this dashboard, they would go directly to the information that was relevant to them. Something else that's really important and very useful, in my opinion, is alerts. Alerts are triggered by some sort of numeric access. So let's say, for instance, I select on our profit ratio access. I could say create. And now you can see that we have some sort of condition. Let's say, for example, I want to be notified when my profit ratio is ever below 10%. I think that's a super low profit ratio, and I want to be notified if any one of my months actually hits that particular mark. I can give this a subject name, and I can also choose the cadence in which that I want to be notified. Because this is super high priority for me, I want to be notified as frequently as possible. And you can see that I'm the particular recipient as well. I'll go ahead and create this alert. And now every single time that Tableau is in the background and actually checks this particular dashboard, when that condition is met, so when that profit ratio is below 10%, get an email notification with almost a live tile of the dashboard letting me know I could then click on it and then take action immediately. Pretty similarly, subscriptions work the same. So this is a great way for you to initially start use. I could add different users here. I could have the option of subscribing to the particular view that we're on or the entire workbook. I also have the ability to choose how I would like to receive it. So I have either the option of the image, the PDF, or a combination of both. Again, I could choose a subject, a message, and recently in our release, in what was 2019.4, we've given the ability to burst this out. So I can choose how often I want this to repeat. Also choose the cadence in which that I want it to be sent. So maybe this is a report that I look at every Monday morning before I come to my particular desk, and I can take action. Again, you can imagine at Tableau, we use our own product. I have a slew of dashboards that I'm actually subscribed to that come to my inbox at 7 a.m. that I'm able to review during my commute to work. And so I know the responsibilities I have for the week prior to me even sitting down at my desk. This is a great way for you to kind of get insights immediately. We'll come back to this button, but we also have the option of downloading. So you can download the image, the data, crosstab, PDF, PowerPoint. Almost seems like ages ago, but something that we put into the product because customers asked significantly for this particular feature. So we input this at the top of last, as well as the Tableau workbook. Now, sometimes when I show this download button, people get a little bit weary, simply because this is a lot of different options to take information, and maybe you don't want people to have that. Keep in mind that all of this toolbar is permissionable. So a lot of your permissions will be based off of your particular admin, but you could also add additional permissions on the dashboards you publish as well. We can also talk about comments. And so this is a feature I think that's slightly underutilized within Tableau. Let's go ahead and select on the Colorado State again. And let's really pinpoint this April 2019 profit ratio. I can attach the image of what I just filtered and call the attention to other people within my organization. So I know that Jane is our database admin, and I work with Colorado super a lot. And so I'm actually noticing that those numbers don't look particularly right to me. So I could say, hey, can you ensure that these I'll go ahead and post that. And now that I have essentially called the attention to Jane, she'll get an email notification in her inbox letting her know that I've essentially made a comment. She'll be able to click into that image and then come in here and see the thread of comments in this particular dashboard, as well as click on the view that I feel. Great way for you to continue to have a single source of truth. No longer are you kind of passing around emails or even like Excel documents where someone might has made a change in one and then someone has made a change in another, and you're not exactly sure what version of the truth that you're actually consuming. This keeps everybody on one accord. Then we would come back to this button right here, and this is simply because this is web editing. I'll go ahead and click on that. This is something we're pretty proud of here at Tableau. With every single release, we have made web editing very close to parity with the desktop application. What that means is we're pretty much about at 92 to 93%. So a lot of the things that you're able to do within desktop, you're also able to do within the browser. Say, for instance, we no longer needed to see things at the city level of this particular map, or their postal code rather. And we really only wanted to see things at the state level again. We could start to create some of those edits within the browser without having to go back into desktop and simply do this here. This is also a really great way for people who have additional insights, who might receive dashboards from other people, but have some questions of their own. This allows them to kind of have the access to the dimensions and measures in that particular sheet, and be able to do some of that same analysis. So maybe I need to see things from a region perspective. And really, maybe we're interested in discounting at this point and not necessarily profit. This will allow me to kind of do some of that same ad hoc analysis that we were looking at before. Now I'll go ahead and close out of that, simply because I don't necessarily want to save it. And you can see we're brought back to our original dashboard. The very last thing that we'll show here for today's demo is simply the ability to share. So we'll always provide you guys the link to share this out to your team so that they can come directly to this dashboard as well as the embed code. And that, at its essence, is a nutshell of what it looks like to be a user within the particular server. Now, one thing that we'll show kind of before, I mentioned a little bit of showing prep, right? That's step before desktop. I'll go ahead and fire up Tableau Prep just to get users a sense of what it looks like. If you're used to using desktop, you'll also have a very easy time within Prep as well. The interface is pretty much the same, and we're taking that exact same kind of visual analytics aspect to data preparation. Give this a few more seconds here. Awesome. So now you can see that I have Prep open. Again, you can see a pretty similar UI. My recent, what we call flows, are in the center. Again, those learning opportunities on the right-hand side, a plethora of free training videos for you to kind of get started and get your bearings for the prep piece of the platform. But again, that really important aspect is that connections panel that we can simply connect to our data. I'm going to connect to an Excel file for this particular part of the demo, and I will connect to metadata. So again, you can see I've made that connection to my metadata. Today, we'll be looking at the WMATA metro. So if you're familiar with the metro area, there are a bunch of lines and stops within those particular lines. And you can see all those tables that are associated with the particular file. Maybe I want to work with that main file first. When I drag that over, you can see that I'm working with a single table, and you can also see a synopsis of the fields that are there. So stop, line, passengers, the date open, date ridership. And what this has created has been an input. If I click on this plus icon, there's a lot of different steps in which I could take. We have a clean step, an aggregate step, so I can take things up to different levels of aggregation. I can pivot to rows or rows to columns. I can do some data integration with joins and unions. Recently, we've added the ability to add scripts from R and Python. And then once you're actually done with everything, you'll actually create what we call an output. And this is simply taking the clean data that you've done and making it useful for somewhere else. So I'll go ahead and start off with the clean step. At the top here, we call our flow pane. And the center is what we call our profile pane. And so in that flow pane, this is basically going to show you your data from beginning to end. In that profile pane, it has your data split up into separate cards. So when I make on selections, you'll see the associated selections in the rest of those cards. Right below there, you'll get your classic data row preview. We call this our data grid. So very quickly, I'm able to see some things that might be wrong with this. We can see here that there might have been some manual entry. So blue is spelled wrong here, as well as red. I can very easily fix this with what we call a group and replace. I'll do a manual selection so you can see what that looks like. And I'll simply group blue with blue. Notice that when I do that, this paperclip icon actually appears and the data in the background actually starts to move. I can do the exact same thing with red and red. And very quickly, in this data set that's 438 rows, I was able to kind of fix those naming issues right away. I also know that this path ID in this order of points actually needs to be split. I don't want it to be one field. This looks pretty clean too in the fact that everything is split simply through a comma. I can go here and say split values and use an automatic split. What that will do will bring two cards at the very beginning here, and we can rename them. So we'll name this our path ID. And we'll name this our order of points. Now, what's nice about prep is there are definitely use cases where you might want to keep the original field. This, however, isn't one of them, so I can simply remove this. The last thing I'll do here, you'll see that in our particular profile pane, we have things split in buckets of our numeric items. You can always look at this from a detail view, however. And we can see that our passengers are being split up into decimals. We know for a fact that people can't be decimals. So I'll switch this data type from a decimal to a whole number. And so now we can see a very clear representation of our passengers on the particular metro. I'll draw your attention up here because we do have a back button. This will take things out in sequential order. However, we also have a changes pane, and that changes pane lists everything that we've done to clean up this particular data set. What's nice about it is that if something is not in sequential order, you can simply remove that particular step. Now, the last thing we'll do here is we'll add a little bit of location data. So I've just created a new input. We can add a clean step so we can see what's in here. And so clearly we have some stop information and some geographic information, some latitudes and some longitudes. I definitely want to keep this within my main table, so I can do a join. Now, this is a place where I actually prefer doing joins in Prep Builder rather than in Desktop, because I can clearly see what my join result is going to be. So we can see here that Tableau Prep is smart enough to know that we're joining on the stop. I'll want to take a left join simply because I want to take everything from that main table and only similar things from the location table. The reason why I like doing this within prep is simply because we can tell if we're blowing the table up. Oftentimes we have users that do joins and tend to make their table significantly larger. Prep is super nice because we can see that we have 438 rows coming from the first and only 91 from the second to create a result of 438. So no duplication. We like to think of Tableau as an integrated platform as well. So at any point, you can actually preview your information within the desktop application. So yes, we like to think of prep as a step before desktop, but you really have a lot of flexibility of kind of going wherever you'd like in the platform. There is not a sequential order in which that you have to go. And so you can see that we have my dimensions and measures for that particular data set that I was working on. And maybe we start to build out to just see what things might look like here. So now you can see we have that map. Maybe I plot this by the stops. And now we see that this is the particular DC metro. This is definitely giving me the shape and what I wanted to see. However, you can see that we have a duplicate stop here. And so maybe you kind of bounce between the two. Right now, I'm in particular desktop. I'm noticing an issue that I didn't notice in prep. So I can close this out, go back to my prep flow, find that duplicate stop that I didn't want, and simply remove it. And now everything looks good for me. Like I said before, once you get to a point where you like the data set, you can create an output. And we can save it either locally or publish this data source to the server. So again, integrated platform. Again, I can publish something directly from prep to the server and not have to go to desktop. Now, we'll give you a couple of different options. I suggest saving things in a hyper file. This makes everything nice and small and super fast. We also have our classic TDE as well as a CSV. And that's really all there is to prep as well. Super simple, taking some of those same concepts from the desktop application, but dragging and dropping to create data preparation from a visual aspect. And that wraps up the demo today.
Thank you so much, Jerrod. It looks like we do have a few questions, so I will get to those real quick to get a couple of them answered. For our first question, do I need to update this dashboard every time my data changes?
Yeah, that's a really great question. A lot of time people think that when your data changes, you have to update those particular dashboards, but that's really not the case. If you remember before, we were connected live to this data source. So every single time that that data source updates, this will actually be reflective within Tableau. So you can assure that you're always getting the most recent information when you consume this particular dashboard.
Great. Okay. Next question. How do I trial Tableau?
Yeah. So I might pitch some of these things to Janae because she knows your organization the best. But simply, when you want to trial, you can go to our website, and we have a 14-day trial very easily that you can download. You'll just want to put in a little bit of information, and then you'll be able to have that desktop application on your laptop or desktop right away.
Great. And the last question we have time for, what training and resources are available to learn the platform?
I can take that one there.
Awesome. Go ahead, Janae.
Yeah. So if you go to the Tableau website, there are a number of free online videos from 5 minutes to 15 minutes to even 30 minutes to an hour, ranging on various topics on how to connect to data to how to build a map. So you can find lots of resources for free on our website. The Department of Commerce, BPA, also has a portal that's hosted by DLT that you can get access to, and it consolidates all of that information in one central portal. So Blair can provide everyone with that information on how to access the content. This webinar will also be embedded in the portal as well. We also have a lot of various options on or for paid training that can be hosted in person, on site at your agency, or you can come to one of our classroom trainings. These trainings can also be hosted virtually for a fee basis. So lots of options ranging from free to paid that can support the most beginner user to the more advanced user.
Great, thanks, Janae. That is about all the time we have for today. So if there are any additional questions, we're happy to address them off-site and offline with you. But thank you so much for joining us today. As Janae mentioned, this webinar will be recorded and has been shared with all attendees. And thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.